Hello everyone. It's a bit unusual because I cannot see your faces this time with the new Hopin interface, which we're trying. So I feel a bit lonely, to be honest, but I hope everyone is here and will enjoy the evening with us. Just a quick reminder, we will be recording this meetup. So if you don't want to have your face later on permanently on the internet, you maybe should not appear later. First of all, a little housekeeping. I'd like to ask you to support us. We're doing these things currently in our free time as a side project. It's a bit of effort. Also, we have a few costs sometimes for infrastructure. So if you like what we're doing, please give us your support. You can go to uxandproduct.com/support. Oops, that's left over. So for tonight, we will have, whoops, I think I missed a slide there, which I was preparing. Anyways, for tonight, and as you can already realize with the style presentation, it's the first time that we are trying out our new format, which is called One to Everyone. It's a new debate format, and we will base on the 4th of February, the UX and Product Conference will be based on this format. And just to know what you need to expect for tonight, we have two speakers. They come in a pair. Each of them will pitch their view on a certain topic, which we discussed with them beforehand. They have up to 7 minutes for pitching on that. Then we will have them both in a moderated debate for up to 15 minutes. And after this first half hour, you will be able to join the whole discussion and give your opinion, react to certain statements made, anything. And we will hope that you will get a fruitful discussion out of this, and that we will share our knowledge on a few standpoints. So tonight it's Barbara and Michael. Barbara is a UX writer at XING Events, or just XING. I'm not sure about that right now. And Michael is the founder of Field.so, or was it IO? Michael, please correct me on that later on. And well, the subject we came about with the two of them is, do further UX roles hinder organizational maturity? So the first one up with her pitch is Barbara. And let's see if we can put Barbara on stage with her presentation. Maybe Thomas, you can give me a little bit of tech support on this one. Okay, we can hear you.
Can you see me?
Not yet.
I can see her. Henning, I will just remove you from the main stage so far, and yeah, also Philip. So it's Barbara. You have 7 minutes to get your opinion across the topic, and I will mute myself. And yeah, if people have any questions or things you want to mention, please use the chat for now. So the time is yours, Barbara. See you soon.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for having me. I will take one last sip. And then I will start. Hi, I'm Barbara. I am a UX writer, and UX writing is a fairly new role, and you will hear more about it. But I'll mostly talk about UX writing when talking about the new role or the further role in UX writing to make my point. but it's quite interchangeable with other future UX roles. To me, and I rephrased the question a bit, the question is, if we accept a new role, where does it sit? And I can tell you this was one of the most frequently asked questions in our international UX writing communities in 2020. And the question was how to get a seat at the table. And what does that mean? How to be accepted to the process, it means. How to get a say. Because talking about organizational maturity is talking about processes. And what we are talking about tonight is what comes when and how do we want to collaborate. And this means for UX writing, introducing a new discipline would be finally accepting the words in an interface need a process too. And that we need to think about the words while or even before we think about how it looks like design-wise. And introducing the role of the UX writer means giving someone the responsibilities and resources to think about the content early on. But what's the status quo for content? Often content is something added at the end, and often it's a writing by committee. And that means that there's text and someone wants to cross out some lines or add some words, and then comes another department and wants to add something as well. So just many people. Even though for most digital services, it's the content and not the design that is of primary interest to the user. And to focus on the content and to listen to what users tell us is to improve the way they interact with our products. And I'm not saying this hasn't been done before, because of course it has been done. Words have always been part of our digital products. But my point is the person who added the words didn't focus their attention on what they were saying. For example, developers who write copy while they're coding don't, and UX designers who don't just put lorem ipsum, but add some more copy while crafting their mockups don't, and the product owners who check the features and go over them one last time and then add some copy, they also don't. But of course, there are also people who do think about what they're saying when they're adding copy to products, but usually or often they're not part of the product and UX team. For example, we have marketing copywriters who add their words just after something has been signed off, or even after something has been developed, and that's just too late. And we tend to think that, well, everyone uses language and everyone knows to write, but that doesn't mean that they can and should be responsible for the words in an interface. But what are UX writers doing then? They design the conversational elements of a user interface, and they balance business needs and user needs and explain features and products by using clear language. And they start thinking about it at the beginning of a project, and it's their responsibility and focus on the copy which makes it a necessary role. So what's the benefit of having a UX writer on your team? It's a more efficient design process. Everyone can focus on what they do best, and the copy person can focus on what needs to be said. You will have a more reliable user testing because you can prototype the complete design and not just the visuals. And by the way, what's the point in showing something unfinished to users, which in the worst case they don't understand, or which even puts them off or distracts them, with the initial goal to check if they understand it? You will gain a clear brand language, which is consistent across different touch points, and better copy because there's no more guessing and no more writing by committee. You will also, in the best case, have a quality check for features and products, because if something is hard or impossible to explain with simple words, then it might be broken. And you will have a go-to person to ask if something is unclear. And I've been now talking about the why, and now I also want to add some ways on how to do it. invite them to your meetings, and I'm talking about early stage meetings, for example, during ideation, during user research, gathering business requirements, etc. Enable them to collaborate with everyone in the team, for example, the UX designers, the product people, the development team. And you can do that by giving them access to your tools and by using collaborative tools. And for the UX writer, that would, for example, be Figma or Abstract, where you can put the copy already in the mockups. You can help set up a documentation base. You can answer questions and ask for feedback and ideas. And that's actually accepting someone to a team to also consider their thoughts worthy of a discussion. And you should let them check their work before it goes into development, meaning check mockups and even help testing before something gets released. And I know what you might be thinking. Here's yet another role and yet another team member, and we don't have a workflow for this, but it is already working, and they have simply been working under a range of job titles, for example, copywriter or technical writer or marketing manager, etc. And the term UX writer just accepts them as members of the UX team. And I've been only talking about UX writing now, but for every future new role, you can review your processes, you can make some space and show that specialization isn't hindering the organizational maturity. And the organizational maturity model only exists to help processes to be developed, meaning, isn't the question, do new roles hinder organizational maturity, showing the wrong mindset? Because it tries to prevent change rather than improve processes. So my last question would be, isn't posing the question against reaching a higher maturity level? And that was my 7 minutes.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Barbara. This was a great start. And next, I would like to have Michael on the stage, who should contribute his 7 minutes, if he comes. Actually, I'll ask him on stage. Here we are.
Hello.
Hello. And Barbara, you can, I think you can mute yourself, and I will also disconnect my video. So the next 7 minutes, it's fully for Michael. So get your perspectives across. How do additional UX roles hinder organizational maturity?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Barbara. My name is Michael. The domain is Field.so. That's the name of my company. What a clever last question, Barbara. Thank you. But I agreed to disagree tonight. And so here's my take on new UX roles. So words are powerful. That's why I love good writing. But titles and the roles and the terms you give titles and the roles are powerful as well. Words create, words destroy, and they include and exclude. They make a difference. And what you do is when you create like good UX for the users. Let me explain it with a little drawing. You want to create value on the outside of your organization. On the right side is the outside of the organization. Here's the inside. Here's you as a UX writer. Here are some other UX people. But like prefixing this specific roles, like UX designers, researchers, they're UX engineers coming. You also say, like implicitly, that they are not UX people. So there are people at your organization that are not UX. You're labeling as people not caring about user experience. And I ask you, do you want to work on a product led by a not UX product person? Why is UX so difficult. There's a great video by, let me share this one, by, I will post the link later, by Cara Pernice from Nielsen Norman Group, Why UX is So Hard. And I ask all of you to watch this video later. UX is so hard because you're working with people who are not UX people. And by calling yourself UX something, you stabilize that fact that in your organization are not UX people. I'm not saying that everyone who likes UX is good in UX, and for sure there should be design, research, writing professionals and practitioners in every organization, but using the UX prefix for some roles and not others makes UX mindset exclusive and not inclusive. And this hinders not the organizational maturity, but the design maturity of your organization. So what I say is everyone in an organization is responsible for UX and creating user value. Everyone needs to take care about the value delivered through the product in the center to the outside. So there are two reasons that I want to share with you tonight. First one is you cannot hide bad UX work. And the same goes, you cannot not communicate, or to say it with like Conway's law, your product reflects the design immaturity of your organization. And all the struggles you have on the inside with like not UX mindset people will be visible and reflected through the product on the outside and dissatisfy the users. And then there's the second argument. The second argument is UX is an interdependent quality, and it's just one of 4 product qualities. This might humble some of your design people, but I hope to also address the product people being present at the UX and product meetup. So pretty sure you've seen this picture, this little Venn diagram, so popular by the work of IDEO, about desirability, about marketability, that's the 4th dimension, about feasibility and the viability of the product. So UX is only, or it reflects only one of the qualities, the value of the product. But your product also addresses a market and uses resources and expresses an idea your company stands for. And all this needs to go together. So by creating a specific UX role, you focus only on that one quality and ignore that everyone is also responsible for value, market, resources, and idea. That's what I call organizational product maturity. And I know the maturity model for organizations, and it's truly about processes. But for me, great products are more than processes. It's the mindset and the practice of working on products in the common sense of the wholeness, that everything belongs together and comes together. We can't afford to just create products that create user value. In the state our world is today, we also need to reflect on the feasibility and on the resources. But your company can only afford great user experience or the work you are doing if it has a viable business model and makes money to pay the people working on a problem solution fit. And this includes like marketing as well. And what I'm afraid of when people start to implement and create new dedicated UX roles is fragmentation. What then happens is, oh, we are UX, we are UX team, and here's the engineering team, but what you actually create is like gaps, and things are like breaking, and users will not perceive the quality of a whole product, a well thought through product, but actually will see the fights and struggles that teams have, or the boringness of fine-tuned, mature organizational products. So I'm excited to discuss about these statements.
Great. Thank you very much, Michael.
Well,
looking forward to the debate. Henning, it's your turn. We have 15 minutes of direct exchange about what happened. And please, guys, in the audience, post your chat, post your topics as well in the chat, your perspective, so we can pick it up in the debate.
Okay, yeah. So actually, it's not my turn. I would say I would really like to know what, because we want to get a debate started here. Barbara, what's your take on what Michael was actually telling? And then I will ask Michael after you.
Yes, of course. And I took some notes because thank you, Michael. That was really interesting. And I'm fascinated about the fact that we found so many different points also, because we had we met before and we talked about the question itself. And I thought, oh, well, that's easy. My opinion is the one. But yeah, there are probably different levels. And one thing is that I completely agree with you about the excluding other departments, for example. And I'm thinking about user care. And user care for us doesn't have the UX in their titles, but they are very much in the middle of the user experience. And they are actually also very close to my role. I'm usually asking for their feedback and helping also in texting templates, for example. And they are really talking to users all the time, and they don't have the UX in their title, and maybe they feel excluded. But what I want to stress is that there's a difference, and maybe even a very important difference between the role, which has a title and which then can have the UX in it or not, and the discipline. And for example, for the UX writing discipline, which is fairly new, I think it's very important to have it and also to call it UX writing, and to finally, for the writing part, for the copy part, have a common name. Because of course there will be bigger companies and companies with enough resources that will hire people in that discipline, but they will drive the discussion, and they will make changes, and they will think about very tiny things and big things, and they will integrate it into a broader view. But they will also have conferences, they will have experts, and they will at one point write books about it. So even the very small teams, the one-person companies, will gain from having a UX writing discipline, because they can just gather all the ideas, the thoughts, the principles some other people just developed, and they can gain from it and also improve their businesses.
Do you want to reply to that, Michael? Oh.
So
Michael, I think the connection is currently...
UX writing.
Let's give it another try. Maybe it was just a little hiccup.
So the UX part in your job title is more like an internal marketing move?
I try to repeat that. You were asking if I think if UX, the term, was just an internal marketing move.
Yes.
Well, as you said, it's excluding people, but it also unites people. And what it definitely does is unite the ones working with the UX term, and they will then actually look for the user experience. And also within a team, the question of the discipline stays, because it's not only about the different UX disciplines like UX design, UX research, UX writing, but also other departments will pick some of these principles and pick them up. For example, development, a lot of my coding colleagues also use UX principles. So the discipline is what drives the discussion and what ensures that improvements and new ideas are being created and developed. And maybe one thing is that it doesn't matter what we call ourselves. It's nice to have a common name and to just type, for example, UX design, and then you get all the articles. But maybe that's not the important part. But I agree with you that it's sad that some departments who are really close to the user are left out.
Could you catch all of it, Michael, or was the connection gone?
Yeah, I'm happy for the agreement, and I'm searching for the disagreement. Because I think writing is important, engineering is important, UI design work is important for a greater product. So it's what you said, like customer care is the ear of the company, maybe, or the eyes of the company, like listening to the user. But everything that's happening with inside these different practices or expertise should happen with a mindset for user experience, for great user experience, for creating user value, as well as with a mindset for market value, resource, the leverage of resources, a good balance of leveraging resources, and working towards the product idea. So for me, it's kind of like an overall layer. If you need to create like dedicated UX roles to get a seat at the table, it seems like there's not a great design maturity in the current environment. And it's kind of like, it feels a bit sad, kind of like the writing discipline needs to market itself under the label of UX to kind of like be heard or be found on Google. So I'm not sure if this fix backfires. Because it kind of like stabilizes and then fragments and leaves people with a non-UX mindset stick to the non-UX mindset because we have a dedicated UX team. So I don't really care about user value.
Well, do you think, let's say at one point everyone calls themselves something with UX marketing, UX user care, UX finance? What would that do to the term, and would that do to the team setup?
What I try to say is like UX should be a common denominator, and once it's a common denominator for every role, so you have a UX CEO, you don't have to mention UX at all, because the mindset is I'm here to create value for other people, which are my users. I'm here to create like a good experience for other users. And for me, this is the kind of like wholeness that a mature person. I'm not living alone just for me, but what is the value I'm creating for my son, or my wife, or my friends? So this should become a mindset or understanding of psychology to work on products as well. What is my product creating for the outside? So this should be like a core value or quality that everyone is striving for. And that would be for me a mature company in the times we're currently living in.
Maybe I would once again put this to a level of discipline versus role, because I was just thinking, you say everything would become UX within a company, but outside the company, not everything would be UX. So the specific UX writer would be a UX writer in to set themselves apart from, I don't know, a journalist or a technical writer or a long copywriter. For example, if you're blogging, then that's just different to UX writing. And the same would come up for designers, because they're UX designers. You could also call them product designers, but they're definitely also designers for non-digital products. So maybe the UX as a term also just tries to reflect the outside discipline within a company.
Okay, I'm with you now. And I like it. I was like really excited.
Michael, can you try to fix your sound first? Because I just can't understand you.
It's getting a bit difficult, unfortunately.
All the time, just sometimes.
Actually, all of the time from myself. Maybe participants could give short feedback in the chat if the sound is, if that's also not okay for them.
Maybe you can completely leave and.
I think, yeah, maybe a page refresh could help. It sounds like it's not about your hardware, but about software. Okay, I think it's okay. Kate is telling us it's also very bad for her.
I'm back now.
No, no, unfortunately not. No, he's gone. It's weird because it was working pretty perfect when we were just setting up, right?
Yeah. So maybe in between, I can try to do a summary of what are the main points or the points I've found interesting. Or
Michael,
try again, Michael.
Say something.
Hello, once again.
Perfect.
Better now.
Okay, now you can bring across your arguments way more clear.
Okay, I just want to try to say maybe that's one point where we agree. I was so excited when you first invited to the UX writers meeting in Germany, because I think it's kind of lacking in a lot of products, good writing of interfaces and product text, and also good writing. I mean, like the definition of UX is like really broad. It's the anticipated like behavior or response before, during, and after the use. So I think good writing starts way earlier than when just using the product, but also on the marketing side, or what you call or might call conversion copy. So this should all be writing in the UX sense. So from this to kind of like specify what you're working on, I agree. I kind of like the title. Could also maybe digital product writing or product writing, but because then you kind of like address the whole and not just one dimension of the product, the value towards the user. And this would be like more, from my understanding, more inclusive and has a greater effect on the inside of the company than saying like, okay, now we have UX writing and now we're in the UX team and we are responsible for the value. Okay, you're responsible for the database performance. Oh, this kind of relates to the user value, right? So it's like a product engineer, product designer, product writer. I love that term.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually very interesting, because also when I said the question how to get a seat at the table was one of the most frequently asked within the UX writing communities. It was also a very discussed topic, the term UX writing, and very frequently the term content designer also came up. So that's what you said. It comes much more, it comes earlier, and it's not just the user experience, but everything around it, and also other departments, other points, are part of the content strategist. So that's very interesting that we are always evolving around the term, because one thing, and that's why you're probably happy about the UX writing community also in Germany, is that we want to talk about it. We want to have new ideas and want to see new ways to work together. For example, when we talk about processes. And one thing about the community and UX writing also for German speakers and German-speaking writers is that everything comes from the English-speaking world. And UX, the big concepts, they always start in English-speaking countries. So we are even, we use their ideas and try to translate them into German, but sometimes that doesn't work or it feels really awkward. So yeah, I'm also happy to have the name, the term, to have a discipline. And I think that's something that when you started, you said something unites and something excludes, but the uniting part for me is more important than the excluding part.
This leads to maybe like the last contribution from my side, but when preparing for this discussion, I was remembering the talk Lissy Tan gave at last year's Push conference about like creating user experience only to drive more subscription, more subscribers. And for me, that's kind of like, so I like this content, what do you say, like content designer. It has like, for me, it's just from the term, it's like a more holistic approach than, and when like taking concepts from the English speaking community, I think their UX understanding, there's kind of like a shortcoming. It's overruled by hard business decisions. And what she was like expressing in the talk, they had to take away like features that were very valuable for the user because these features were not driving subscriptions. And this is kind of like the pain you're kind of bringing in if you might focus on the UX term, because that's only one quality of something that should be balanced with like 3 other qualities, and not like below like the more product market fit or like the leverage of the business model. And so yeah, so I like all the terms that kind of like try to be more holistic and not only focus on this little part, because this little part, I mean, it should be bigger, but this little part, user experience in the context of a product, is one part of many other parts. Could also be dangerous, right? But really, I really recommend everyone this Lissy Tan talk. It's on Vimeo. Great talk.
Okay. Maybe I would like to put a little bit salt again into the discussion, direction of Michael. I try to collect for both sides, but right now I find it because Michael, you were mentioning that UX should be like a common denominator in an organization. Isn't there a problem being posed that maybe not every organization is at a level where they already think UX, so to say?
Yeah, they build bad products, right? They waste human resources. That's a big problem in our times. I mean, I'm living in Europe. I'm like, my carbon footprint is like two times the Earth. Like for me living here, like it's like really bad living in Europe from a carbon footprint perspective. And there are a lot of like people working on a bit bad and shitty products, and shitty products are products that do not provide any user value. So these companies are immature in our time. They might have great processes. So the organizational maturity model, wow, awesome. Really like trained processes like a machine, but still not delivering any value. So yeah, maybe then marketing writing or marketing design under the label UX is better than doing nothing. But once you want to like really grow up as an organization, I think like creating user value, so having a good user experience, should be one of 4 common denominators.
Okay, maybe I'm leaning a bit far outside of the window. wouldn't you say if they don't understand how value is created or what is value, that as a person that right now I'm trying to support Barbara said, and then I think I have something for Barbara again. Wouldn't a person be very helpful that is actually promoting the subject of UX inside this company, and that he's also known by this type of title?
Maybe I can share my screen once again, because
I think it's already working.
Cool, because I've worked with different companies, and what I've found so far is that companies have different barriers or different gaps when creating products. So the product is in the center. You have the inside of the company on the left side. Here's the outside. We're talking about users, customers here. And here are more abstract things like the company goals, user needs, just in short. And when you're building a product, you're performing certain activities. And I think that relates very well to what Barbara just said about like customer care. Up here, when it comes to creating value, the activity is all about like understanding your user. So customer care is like in contact with the user. It really helps Barbara and the UX team to kind of like understand what the users are doing. Here it's about like making decisions. So deciding, and here's about like making stuff. It's like using your resources, like writing, using your pen and paper. So it's about like making, and here it's about like testing. And there are some companies, and maybe you're like addressing those companies, and they're in high need for design work, because the designer is trained. Design thinking starts with the user to come from the outside and then come up with a solution. An engineer is most likely, oh, this is a great library I just found. Let's build something with it. It comes from the inside, right? And what I found that some companies has like huge barriers here. They never are able to kind of like, they do great UX processes, but they are never able to bring it to the CEO or C-level where decisions are made. And like great UX work is overruled sometime. So this is like, could be one barrier. Other companies have a complete blind spot here. They don't know anything about actually what the user is doing. And then there are sales-driven companies. They're just doing this loop. Oh, it works well. It's worked well. What's happening then? They're just doing what the customers want. Yeah. So build faster horses, and they end up with like a really fragmented, customized technical solutions, and they really lose it. They can't scale it all because they're like, customizing for every customer, but forget to create a kind of like higher value. It's like delivering one customer at a time and not building up a scalable solution. So UX is, and everything that's under the label of UX and that you find Googling UX is important for customers that do have like a big black blind spot on the value creation sector. But once you become mature, you want to like create like balanced innovation. Like this should grow in equal size. Like not everyone, you do this movement of like understanding, deciding, making, testing, and your company grows. And this is like what I call like holistic growth, well-balanced growth. This is kind of a mature product. Does it answer that question? Maybe not, but I was wrong. It was fun.
I was
just want maybe this can be a reply from you, and then I would open the discussion to the whole.
Okay, because I was just reading in the chat, and exactly. That was interesting because Thomas said it looks like job titles can help at some point to get recognized if you drop the UX letters. Does UX mean early in the process? And that's also a point. UX helps within a company to define when is your time to shine. And maybe when Don Norman coined the term UX design, he took it away from other departments. So sorry, but actually it's more about when it comes in the process, because marketing will most probably marketing can give feedback, but what they have to market is something that's already finished. And also user care usually is working with what's already there and then helps users, customers to get what they want to do. But everything before, and for example, if my role was only called writer, when I started, there were so many people asking for my time, and I could actually then just work for user care all the time. But no, my role was UX writer, so that meant I could say no. I am working with the UX team in ideating, in developing new features and improving existing ones.
I love that phrase, when it's your time to shine. And I wish like marketing would also shine earlier, as engineers should shine earlier. Because like marketing is dead. I mean, we now have like product-led growth strategies. I think this happens when marketing shines earlier. By the way, that's why I love like formats like the design studio method, as simple as it is. But just like scribbling interfaces or products early on, very early on in the process, before many decisions are made. This is about like exploring opportunities. And when you explore opportunities, you should involve writers, you should involve engineers, you should involve marketing, sales, customer care. So maybe our conclusion is like more people should shine earlier.
Everyone
before we come to conclusions,
the beginning of the product development process.
And if UX helps to shine earlier, okay, it's good.
So before we jump to conclusions in a pair of two here, I would say we open the discussion for everyone else, because I saw that in the chat there's already some discussion going on as well. Maybe Thomas, can you help us with transitioning to this session and also give us a short explanation how this will work now? Let's see if he's coming back online, or maybe one of his kiddos is just okay. Let's see.
Maybe we should switch to the session because he can't hear us.
Yeah.
Ah, now he's
hello.
Okay.
So for everyone, for you, we are now in the everyone stage of our format, which means we will go to the session. Everyone, please leave the stage, which is on the menu highlighted on the left currently, and go to the sessions. And then there's one session, you can click on it and we will jump into it, which will give us the opportunity to have up to 9 people on the stage as well. So we are widen up the debate. So it started with Barbara first, then Michael came, then both were discussing. And we had some chat in parallel going on, but now it's time for you to also jump on the stage. If you're saying like, nah, I don't want to, we still have speed networking going on, so you can just randomly match with someone else. So those are your both opportunities. But I would really like to encourage you to come to the session, and join us there in a debate where we can see each other and discuss with each other. Especially like Kate or all the others like Andy, Sebastian, Mike, who dropped some comments in there. Looking forward to see you soon. So we will leave the main stage now and move over to the sessions. See you there in a second. So there's Stephanie already. So
but we are missing Barbara, I think.
We're missing Barbara.
Also, quick public service announcement. If you want to be seen here, you first have to manually click the share screen and audio, the blue button on the top right.
Barbara is actually in the session room, as I can see. I can click join. Okay. Our just invite her. Let's see if she can react to that. Oh, add private? No.
So yeah, please join our open debate here. Stephanie is already on stage. Hi, Stephanie. What is your point of view?
Well,
yeah.
I have to say that I myself am quite new to UX, so I don't really have a lot of experience in a large organization. Like I've only worked with very, very small teams where it's like easy to involve everyone, and we talked a lot. As always, communication is key, of course, yeah, so I don't know how it works in bigger organizations. And so this was a really interesting for me to, actually hear from you guys about your experience and your perspective and, how, there are so many different roles in a larger organization. In my teams, I did the UX writing, I guess, because there was just no one else who could do it. Or I shared it with people who created other content.
But was UX writer did you do the writing, or was it also like officially in your job title?
No, it was like never officially in my job title. But I just did the writing as well as a UX designer.
Undercover.
Yeah, I'm not. Kind of undercover, and I'm not as proficient in UX writing as I'm sure Barbara, for example, is.
And that's the point. You, as you said, UX designer plus UX writer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by being the UX designer, you were already in the right place, and you said you didn't feel proficient in doing the UX writing, but at least you were at the right side of the product development process, because often, for example, marketing people who, as I said before, often come after something has been signed off, and if they write the copy that should be part of the UX development process, then it's just too late.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, if you said you're UX designer plus UX writer, then maybe your problem was that you couldn't focus on neither of your tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that I was like that UX writing was just like normally a part of my job as a UX designer in the teams I worked in so far, because it makes it a lot easier. I had this interesting observation because in my last project I worked with one other designer who mostly did graphic work before. So she's very much a classical graphic designer doing layouts and books and stuff. And she didn't write in her mock-ups and prototypes. And it was so weird to me. Like she had always lorem ipsum there. And I was like, well, you have to write something. Otherwise, nobody understands what it's supposed to be. But she told me, well, where in the places where I worked, that was always the job of the copywriters. I never did anything like that. So that's why I just put lorem ipsum, put it in a nice layout, and then I wait for the copywriters to do their job or something. So yeah, I guess we already had like a very different perception of text and writing and what it means in an interface.
That's actually also something maybe Michael would agree with me, that there is also a big difference between the role and the skills of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, until mid of 2020 in my team, we didn't have a UX researcher. But most of the people in the UX team were very interested in it, and we just set up something ourselves. And our idea was to do whatever was possible next or beside our actual tasks. So if people say it's not my skill, I cannot do that, then maybe they find someone else who help them. And in a team, it should always be possible to find someone who's able to help you out. But the overarching part would then be the UX.
So if you weren't following the chat, I am a UX writer. And I think the lorem ipsum thing is a very dangerous thing. I've been shown screens with rubbish writing in them and then been asked to review them, and I've actually been able to write text that's changed the flow. I had one case where I was able to remove a CTA from a mobile app just by changing the words, but there was a CTA on the original screen with some rubbish blah blah text on, assuming that you would need to click on this button to get something to happen, which was actually an automatic thing if you just moved, if you just gave some kind of movement. So by adding the words blink, I removed a CTA and about 10 redundant words. So the designer just put in blah blah lorem ipsum is not a good move, in my opinion, because they're not really then thinking about the flow and what does this mean and what are people going to understand from this UI. So it is really important to get your, as I think as UX writers, as Barbara was just saying, people are interested in research and other things. You're not just in, although the title is there because that's your main skill, you've got other interests and responsibilities as well. And certainly I often change design flows because I say, you know, I'm trying to work through this, and for me, this isn't making sense in this sequence. Could you change this sequence to make it more easy to flow? But I think another thing is that consistency in terminology is very important. That a developer might use multiple words to mean the same thing, whereas a UX writer is going to be really on the button and say, no, I'm sorry, we called it this on this screen. It's got to be called the same thing on the next screen. Don't put a different name on your button than you've called it on the page header or field name or something. So I think it is important to have a strong discipline. I have a strong role, but yes, still be interested in everything else. And yeah, I don't tell any developer, no, you can't write a word on my page because I'm responsible for the words. It's still a collaborative thing, but you've got to have a responsibility for your role and say, at the end of the day, that's where, where it falls on my lap.
That's very true, responsibility. And also, for example, as I said, the documentation base, who owns the documentation base and who takes the decisions. For example, I'm always very happy when UX designers already provide some real wording, and I don't need to read all the ticket and everything around it and understand what the flow is, because I, through their copy, already get their idea, and then I can ask questions. But I would never say, no, you're not allowed to write. And we also have developers, and also when we start thinking about a feature in the product meeting, everyone already says, and that could be what's on the button. And that's fine. But in the end, I will check if that's in line with what we usually call it, for example.
If somebody is talking, I muted everyone by accident. I'm sorry for that. So please unmute yourself if you want to. I think, Michael, you were saying something, weren't you? We still can't hear you. Anyways.
You can only unmute yourself. Maybe Magdalena wants to get her perspective in. That would be interesting.
Yeah, hi. I was actually, I found that talk quite interesting, and also the UX writer role, because I realized in our company we don't have a specific UX writer or like a person that's called UX writer. But actually, we have someone who's doing it as part of her job. It's someone from marketing, and well, I'm on the design part, and I find it extremely helpful that she's doing this part. And it's also part of our process that she's doing this. Because
you share your process. When does she start thinking about the word?
It's not super early, and that's when also later I would like to give back the question to you and to Sue when you are involved in the process. For us, it's more that we as designers, we work on the concepts how things should look like, and we also create some visuals. And then basically, when I have the visuals at some point, definitely before development, she comes in to review the texts. And then usually I give the the kind of finished designs to her, and then she reviews the texts. And then it's usually a bit back and forth between the two of us when she says like, this is how we could do it. And then I say like, but wait, this is not what I was trying to say. And she changes it a bit. But yeah, it really helps me because I can just kind of tell her what I want to say, and she finds much better words how to actually say it. And also how to name certain things, like if we add a new point in our menu, I think it's quite critical how that should be called, and she's very good at finding things for these. So I'm very glad for getting her input. And also sometimes we change things when we figure out this is super difficult to put in words to explain, then actually we go back and change some things on how it will work. That's kind of how it works for us.
It already sounds like you were also doing some UX writing work because, of course, one main part of my work is to think what a logic requires in words. When a user enters a page, then what do they need to see? What info do they need to get? And you are probably also thinking about all this information and just putting it down like you would say it, and it helps you to pass on the responsibility after that. You can just say that's what what the logic requires, and the actual words, please, the next person should think about the actual words. Of course, if you combine these two tasks, it gets easier and maybe also faster because when I talk to the product owners and also in the product meeting where we come up with new ideas, if I'm involved early, then I can point at. Could you please mute yourself? I can point out some things that wouldn't work, or I could in the beginning already say, well, we don't need a headline and a subtitle and 3 bullet points because I can only, I will just say that in a help text. So I will also think about which components will help to convey what we are saying. But of course, we also have processes where I come in later on because we already know how our empty states look like, and we agreed on something. There's a component, and I will write exactly the words necessary to explain what comes next. And there, I don't need to change the logic. Kate, is it similar with?
And I also just wanted to pick on something that Magdalena said, where like she's really grateful that people do. I get the same feedback. I'm a native English speaker, and I deal with people of many nationalities who just say, "Well, I'm really glad you're here because I can't write. I don't know what the right word is, or I don't know how to spell it." And the designers are great at drawing things and planning things on the page, but their words are not their strong part, and they're very relieved that it's not their responsibility, is what I find. So yeah, that was kind of what Magdalena was saying there. So I thought that was very pertinent. But yeah, usually though I would say we're too late in our company at looking. We often have a mock-up that we then review, and we're trying to get involved. But I have a designer in France, and my main designer is Singapore. So I've never been physically with my UX designers ever. So everything's remote, and with the time differences, we're not really sitting there and working actively together, which I do find a shame, but it's a limitation of the company of working with 24/7 coverage of teams.
And it also means, if we bring it back to the question, that it's about responsibilities as well. So different levels on this year roles.
I think, Katharina, you were also joining a while back on stage. Did you want to add something to the discussion?
Yes, I can relate to what Kate says, that designers are very grateful when someone adds the words and they can focus on designing. I was working in social media and content marketing a few years ago in a company who did both marketing and app development and design. And back then, the designers came to me to ask how can we replace the lorem ipsum here, and that led to that I became the product owner, because I was working more with the product people than in the content marketing, and I realized that's more the role I'm fitting in. And yeah, in some projects we had the problem that the design sometimes really was almost finished, and we had to replace some very short very small buttons, very short explanation texts or content items with text that should have been longer, for example, or should have been somewhere else. And that was a big problem, but we also managed in the last few years to kind of create the content first. It doesn't work always, because we have a much larger UX design team than the product owner team. That was kind of the problem here. And the things changed slowly, but yeah, they really changed in the last 5 years, from asking someone from content marketing to actually starting with priority guides to do the content first and then do the wireframes after that. So I think it's really important to have someone to focus on the UX writing, content design, however you call it, and who's really responsible for doing that in the project.
And how did it change? Like, who was driving this change that they started to create content first, work on the content first?
Yeah, that was me starting at the point when I switched to be a product owner and officially not doing content marketing anymore. So I totally changed from one team to another, and yeah, had the chance to make some restructuring there.
So coming back to the very initial question, would you say that you change in the role, and also that being expressed in a new title, did it help to improve the maturity of the organization working on what they're working on?
Yes, I'd definitely agree on that.
I'm trying to ich probiere mal was aus Michael rauszukitzeln, aber no success here, I guess.
One thing also, because I was just reading a comment from Bennett. Everybody on a team is a product developer, and you need them to have all the skills that are necessary to get your product done. And why do we care about titles? It's true that we're excluding other departments if we are calling only one part or one team user experience professionals, but also they have to have a shared view on what user experience principles are. So that's where they share something, and other departments might not or should also.
I'm not sure I could follow right now. I'm sorry. Could you restate it a little, Barbara?
So everyone should have the same skills, and everyone is a product developer, which of course is not true because not everyone can do every task, but everyone within the UX team should have the same idea of or a shared vision of the user experience. And of course, other departments can piggyback on that and also use these principles, but to develop the product and to start new features, for example, the UX principles help.
I would agree on that. Just going through my notes. I would like to pick up on a bit of on a different point that you mentioned, Barbara, a while back in the first discussion, actually, which I found still interesting. You mentioned that having a job title helped you to say no. Well, maybe not you especially, but it helped you to kind of keep the time for working on what you are actually good at working at. Do you see that the job title would be the only chance to do so, like what's written in your contract? Or could you imagine this? Yeah.
My example was being a UX writer compared to being just a writer. Because of course, especially with this discipline, there's a lot of text in a company. I could be writing a copy for user care or for marketing or for internal communication. I could, for example, that was also part of my tasks in the beginning. I would explain our features to our internal colleagues, and that's a very different style in writing. I had a newsletter, and I would gather images and insights, and even had to talk to customer success then to understand what they need to know to help our users. So that's actually a completely different field. So actually the thing is, I could be writing many things and for many different people within and outside the company. But having the UX in the title and also being part of specific teams helps me to say no and to say, well, my most important tasks are the tasks for that specific team. But also one thing is the ratio between the UX writers, if we talk about UX writing, and other people in the different teams. For example, I'm now part of 4 different teams. So I have to balance all the tasks, all the tickets I get from the different teams. And that means I need to prioritize. And that sometimes also means that, of course, I come at the end of some product development because there's no time. Therefore, one part of my current role is also to enable colleagues to write better workshops. And I hear that a lot, that other UX writers also do workshops to help their colleagues, their UX peers, write better copy. And yeah, to spread the responsibility of writing.
Actually, I want to add on that compared to other roles in a product team, I've heard, and I actually like this idea that UX is basically UX is a team sport, right? And that everyone in the team is responsible to think about the user and to also be able to look at your tool through the user's eyes, or like with the user. And that basically for everyone with a UX and a job title, the main job is actually not always like doing interfaces or wireframes or whatever. It's more doing workshops, bringing people together, setting up sessions, supporting research, supporting, showing, or like actually teaching. It's kind of like more. Is UX more than like a coaching role? That would be my question to you guys.
Who would be doing the actual work then?
Everyone. I had for example, I was in a project where there was no resources for a UX person who actually does like wireframes, like the design stuff. And then one person from legal stepped up and did some stuff in PowerPoint, and then we took the visuals for Facebook. Did with PowerPoint. Okay, fine. Just to move fast. So, I mean, there's Canva out there. There are lots of design tools which make people look good or create nice visual stuff. So like actually creating designs and graphics doesn't necessarily you need to design you need to study graphic design or something like that. That's my point of view.
May I read at this point the definition of UX design by the International Organization for Standardization? I think this one is like really interesting. It's like quoting from Wikipedia here. It's in German as well in English because it's ISO. But there's also a DIN norm, like we have like DIN A4 paper. And so I love it.
Yeah, it seems to me a bit like I hear very often that UX design is a lot about communication and about bringing people together and their perspectives. And yeah, I'm just thinking like maybe UXers sometimes take on this role of bringing together these 4 circles we saw in Michael's Venn diagram before. To bring the different disciplines together and to tear down the silos to create a good product. That I think that kind of sometimes is the role of UX designers. Sometimes, like if they have the capability in an organization, I guess. But I can't speak from personal experience. It's just something I keep hearing.
So maybe it's a good time that Michael is adding the definition, the ISO norm. Maybe that will shed some light on it.
So the ISO norm, the standardization, defines user experience as a person's perception and responses that result from the use or anticipated use of a product. That's huge, right? System or service, okay. According to this definition, user experience includes all the user's emotions, the beliefs, the preferences, the perceptions, physical, this is stressing me, click that button, no. Cancel meeting for everyone, no, don't click that button, okay. So physical and psychological responses, behaviors and accomplishments that occur before, during, and after use. Have you ever dreamt about like touching a smartphone display? Wow, because the UX was so horrible. This is like involved like in the definition of user experience. This is, when I read this definition, the answer to the question user experience would be 42. 42. That's the answer to life. Because this definition includes everything. And so
would you say it also includes what Stephanie just what Stephanie just mentioned about and I think also Thomas was trying to bring across tearing down these, like being a coach, tearing down the borders between the silos? I didn't hear that in the definition actually.
I would say yes, because if it touches everything, like everything the organization do, or everybody works in the organization, will be seen or experienced on the outside. Yeah, it's not about like creating a shiny surface. What your organizational structure is able to communicate is reflected on the outside through your product. And so tearing down silos or educating towards like a more holistic understanding of the work the organization is doing means improving the value, means improving the user experience.
So maybe it's not,
this is why
part of the definition. I kind of think that this communicator and coach role that UX designers sometimes have is maybe the result of them first having to establish UX. Like, it's not such an old discipline, right? It's rather young. UX designers had to explain to a lot what they even do and why it has value. So they already had to communicate a lot with different departments. So maybe, yeah, that's a result of that. What do you think?
I just wanted to come back to the official definition, and in terms of anticipation, and it very much depends on the kind of software you're doing. If it's an app that you're choosing to use on your phone, you have a different perception than the kind of software I work with, which is forced on people to use for their job. And people have no choice of this, and they might be getting a new application that means that some of their colleagues are going to be made redundant. So that anticipation, how do you feel before you start using this new piece of software, is very real. I've met customers who have expressed concern, oh, it's the new product, you know, and they do genuinely have concerns about what it's going to be like, and you do have to guide them very much and take all their feedback into the design, so that they're not worried when they see it for the first time, and that they're excited and it's going to help them. So that I have seen that firsthand, that how do they feel emotionally and physically and psychologically. But say if it's a phone, if it's an app on my phone, no, if I don't like it, I'm going to remove it. If you're stuck with it in your place of work, different thing altogether.
I shortened the quote in Wikipedia. It continues with the context the user is in, and I think you're referring to the context here. So this role, the practice of this role involves teaching, because it tries to implement the user perspective, or thinking from the user perspective in everyone's head. So I think this is why looking at the work you are doing from the outside is a core value, and UX designers are trained to do so. So they try to teach other people in their organization to reflect on the work they're doing from the outside. And workshop is just like creating a workshop is like in a mirror that helps people to see and look into that mirror to see through the user's eyes the work you're doing everywhere, like looking away from the software, looking away from legal terms, looking away from sales numbers, but looking into that mirror that helps me see how users see the product, how users read the text, how users understand the words written for the product. So, Thomas, yes.
That's again a point where we can connect the dots, because if people with the UX in their title are people who teach others in the company and who bring their shared values to other departments, then we can say that every future person calling themselves UX will improve their organizational maturity.
Ta-ta!
We have it.
We have it.
Well,
Or what do you think, Michael?
Beautiful. I like this implementation.
Okay, Barbara, we need to set up some. We need to set up some workshops for marketing and sales and all the other guys. Will be fun.
We are also actually officially at the end of the time of the discussion round. I'm wondering if we would like to continue because we would still have some time also on an official scale. If there's interest for that. Or we could wrap it up.
Like some speed networking round or?
We could do that, yeah.
By the way, I've opened up a poll. If before you leave, would be nice to just rate like your experience. That like how did you like the format? That would be nice.
Yeah.
Or you want to say something right now? I mean,
yeah,
we are not like awfully lot of people. I mean, it's us 8 here exchanging, but then plus 7 watching. Yeah. So yeah. How was your experience, Kate?
Is it?
Of the
Yeah,
format?
I enjoyed it because it's small enough for people to talk. Mostly me, sorry, but I do like to push UX writing on anybody who I possibly can. As I mentioned in the other chat, we had to be really, really pushy to get the UX writing role recognised, even though we'd been doing it unofficially for a long time. So yeah, I do kind of evangelise about it and talk non-stop about UX writing. So I apologise. But yeah, I thought it was good because it was interesting to meet other things. And I'm sorry, Michael, but I do think that Barbara totally knocked you off, totally beat you with that debate. I am biased.
That's all right.
How about Stephanie and Magdalena? What was your experience and who won? I don't know.
It's not about winning you. Is it? I don't know. Magdalena, please go.
So on general feedback on this and how it was done, I think actually for me this was the closest to normal that virtual can be so far, because I've been to some Zoom events where there was just a big crowd of people and then basically 2 or 3 people were talking and 80 people were watching. So I thought this was quite interesting as a bit different approach to actually get a bit more people involved, which I think is cool. Regarding the debate, I thought actually that to me it felt like 2 different descriptions, but still agreeing on some points, which I found quite interesting. That actually, on the one hand, there was the thing that the role gives some visibility, but you also have to be careful to not let this divide people further. So I think there's just like, yeah, valid points in both.
Mm-hmm. And Stephanie, how was the format? The one to everyone with like a pitch first and the group debate and then the open debate with everyone?
Now I'm unmuted. That's great. Yeah, I like the format actually. It's pretty cool. I found it a bit hard to discuss online. It's maybe because of the lag or whatever. It's not as easy as in person, but still kind of works and I enjoyed it. It's a nice change from all those webinars where you just sit and watch and maybe write a hi in the chat or something. So that's cool. Yeah, regarding the debate, interesting topic. Barbara and Michael, you came at the topic from such different points, like Barbara with the perspective of the UX writer and her role in the company, and Michael with this bird's eye view of the whole company and the product creation process, etc. So yeah, I kind of felt you weren't as much really disagreeing, you just had a different perspective on the topic. But that was also really interesting to see. For me, it was really interesting. So, yeah.
I'm personally wondering. So in my notes, my two key takeaways from tonight are the two UX letters. They give you more visibility within the organization, and also more like awareness to start or to be involved more earlier. That's one key takeaway. And then the other thing is that UX, or everyone with a UX in the title, has the responsibility to educate the other disciplines in the organization to have the right methods and the right know-how to make the right decisions on behalf of our customers, to actually gain, how did you call it, organizational maturity, right? So UX writers are part of this force, and that's basically my two key takeaways. Or would you add something else, or would you have formulated differently, Michael?
You need to unmute.
That's your key takeaways. I don't want to change your takeaways. Thanks everyone for the feedback. Totally agreeing with, like, coming from different angles, but it's kind of the tension. It works well, like coming up with UX to find a seat at the table. I'm not against. I'm pro better text and words in products and interfaces. I think there's a huge demand. So tip for maybe Magdalena's colleague from marketing. If she wants to make a career in UX writing, now is the time, I guess. And it's great that kind of a lot of like resources are bundled under this term. That was really, this is my key takeaway. Like creating this label makes it kind of like addressable, makes it kind of marketable in books, makes it Googleable. So it's good to find these resources under the label of UX writing. And but still, from the other angle, beware of fragmentation. And also accept, and this is maybe a humbling moment for every UX person, not just UX writer, that there are like at least 3 other qualities that make a great product and pay your job, and you should care about. So maybe there's also a potential to learn from a holistic product perspective. We as UX people learn what it means to treat our resources well. That said, thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Henning, Thomas, and Philip. Interesting experiment, like doing this 7-minute pitches. I enjoyed it.
Great to hear. Thank you for being with us, Michael and Barbara, and doing this tonight with us, and also to everyone who participated in the debate and who was listening and just dropped by.
Yep. One last note, like in the events chat, I will post a discount code for our UX and product conference on February the 4th. If you enter Gentle Push, then you will get €5 off. I mean, the tickets are 69 euros, so it's not a biggie, or should not be. But yeah, feel free to hang around here. We have the speed networking session, so you can just click there and get randomly matched with one of the other 16 people left here. So this could be like, or I would suggest to have this as like a format to slow everything down, like have a little chat, or of course you can hit the hay. So thank you very much from my side. Philip, Henning, do you want to say some last words, or that's it?
Words.
I will go to speed
I would just
networking
have another
sessions now.
discussion, I think.
Okay. I will go to speed
Thank
networking
you.
sessions, and we'll see what this brings up.
Bye.
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 Bye,
See
Thomas.
you.